Hello loves, and welcome back to my channel, Your Hero's Quest. Happy winter solstice, happy Yule, Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah, happy holidays. This is totally the best season of the year, and I simply had to do an episode on the history of Christmas. We all know that Christmas corresponds pretty much almost perfectly with the winter solstice, which is on December 21st. And of course, that day marks the shortest day of the year, the longest night. The winter solstice has been celebrated for thousands of years across all different cultures. This also marks the first day of Yule, which is part of the pagan wheel of the year. And Yule has also been celebrated for thousands of years. So where did modern Christmas come from? Of course, it was adopted from these pagan traditions, and we will get into all of the ways that happened, but many of the celebrations and customs actually originated from an ancient Roman holiday called Saturnalia. This holiday celebrated Saturn, the god of agriculture, and it started in the week leading up to the solstice and lasted for an entire month. This also coincided with the ancient Romans celebrating the sun god Sol Invictus, or Mithra, who was coincidentally or not born on December 25th. So during this ancient Roman festival, there was plentiful feasting, food, drink, revelry, parties every night. Society actually stopped its usual functions, and slaves were temporarily freed for the entire month. They were seen as equals. All businesses and schools were closed. There were no court systems. If you were in jail or something, you're good during this month. And basically everyone in society would party together for this whole month. Now, Yule, as I mentioned, is celebrating the winter solstice. And what we're celebrating is the return of the light. The sun is finally returning. From here on out, we get longer and longer days again. We're on our way to summer. Yule was also celebrated for 12 days, and it was celebrated by early Europeans and Scandinavians, like Old Norse cultures and Old Germanic pre-Christian peoples of Europe. The end of December was the time when the cattle would be slaughtered, meats would be cured and prepared and stored for during the winter time. All of the beer and wine and meads and ales that have been fermenting for the past months are now ready to be drank. So this was the perfect time for a celebration, for a huge feast of food and drink. As this was a time celebrating the return of the sun, of light, candles and bonfires are central to the Yule celebration. Dancing, decorating, singing. Evergreens were clipped and cut and brought in to decorate the house. Evergreens were actually seen as some of the most magical plants and the symbol of renewal, of everlasting life, and of rebirth, because their green never fades and their lusciousness never is lost. And they thrive and survive in the dead of winter, in snow, and in the harshest conditions when all other plants seem to have gone to sleep. Bringing them into the home also acted as that energy of this renewal, of this rebirth, of protection, and of that everlasting life. Holly was also brought in and placed around the home as decoration, but also because it had its prickly edges and leaves, it was known to ward off any evil spirits. Holly also is associated with the Holly King, who is the Celtic king of winter, and it is a masculine plant and is associated with the god. And of course, we have mistletoe, which is obviously so associated with Christmas in our modern times. But this was used in the Saturnalia festival to decorate their homes with and please their gods. It was also sacred to the Druids because it has very powerful healing properties. And they would collect it around the solstice and also decorate their homes with it. Mistletoe is the feminine plant and represents the goddess. Ivy is also feminine, and both of these are also really good for protection and good luck. Mistletoe is also was used in marriage ceremonies because it's associated with fertility. During Roman times, enemies would reconcile differences under it. There's a Nordic myth. Mistletoe was sacred to Frigga, the goddess of love, but Loki, who is that mischievous god, shot Frigga's son with a spear. She revives her son under mistletoe and says that anyone who stands under it deserves protection and a kiss. We also have the tradition of the Yule tree, which of course is where our modern Christmas tree comes from. However, the Yule tree was not cut down and brought inside. It would be one that was outside in the community, and it represented the tree of life, or the world tree, that is that Yggdrasil in Norse mythology. And people would decorate it with offerings, berries, pine cones, and they would also decorate it with gifts of things they wanted to receive from the gods. And a major Yule tradition is the Yule log. Now, this wasn't just one log, but they would actually go out and fell a whole tree, or find a felled tree in the forest and haul it back, place the largest end of the log into the hearth, full thing, and light this log, and it would have to stay lit for 12 full days. Could never let it go out. This symbolized the sun's return as well as protection for the home, and then you would save a piece of the log to use to light next year's Yule log. Also during Yule, we have wreaths, which of course are made from evergreen, having those elements we talked about. And it also symbolizes the wheel of the year and the end of another cycle. Wreaths were also given at this time as gifts to symbolize the affinity and eternity of goodwill, friendship, and joy. Bells were rung to ward off any evil spirits, chase away any demons that came in during this dark time of the year. We also have wassail, which is a traditional holiday drink. This word comes from Old English, Wyas hael, meaning be well or good health. It's a strong drink made of ale, honey, spices, and mulled cider. And it would also be used to anoint the Yule log. And then, of course, you drink copious amounts of it with your friends. The old greeting was Wyas hael, and then they would say back to you, drink hael, and it meant drink and be well. As this is a pagan festival, a Celtic festival, and just steeped in ancient tradition, Yule is also associated with the Fae, our besties from the other world. And it is said that the winter solstice marked the first day of the wild hunt, which was led by Odin. He would lead this wild hunt through the winter sky on horseback. So perhaps that's where we get Santa and the reindeer. So now let's do a little timeline of how Christmas sort of snowballed into what it is today, coming from these very ancient traditions. So in early Christianity, the birth of Jesus was actually on the 6th of January, and this was the last day of the 12 days of Yule. This was also the feast day of the three wise men who offered their gifts to baby Jesus. And then in the 4th century, Pope Julius I chose December 25th as Jesus' birthday. His birthday was actually not mentioned in the Bible. The church always has a bit of an angle at this time. He's like, well, people already celebrate something on the 21st. There's already this like customs and traditions around it. Why don't we just slap on Jesus' birthday as the 25th, and people will be more inclined to take it up and to accept it and to make it popular. And that's exactly what happened. Of course, by the Middle Ages, Christianity had mostly replaced the pagan holiday of Yule. Christmas was the main celebration. But just because it was a religious holiday now did not mean that the revelry stopped. Actually, it was a very rowdy time in the Middle Ages celebrating Christmas. It started the night after Advent, which was a month long of abstaining from overindulgence. So you'd go from sort of being super pious and not eating rich foods to pull out all the stops. It's 12 days of full feasting, revelry, drinking, partying in the streets, going house to house caroling. Wealthy lords of country manors gave their tenant farmers 12 full days off and offered them a festive meal. Ale and spiced ciders were favored by commoners, and wine was consumed by the tons by the wealthy. Yeah, actually, one of the kings threw an insane party where he ordered something like 60 tons of wine for the 12 days of Christmas. At this time, people would play dress up, there was merrymaking, lots of role reversal and masquerading. On the 12th night of Christmas, this was January 6th, it concluded the festivities with a fruit cake that had a small dried bean hidden in it. If you got that slice, you were named king for the night and could make up any silly penalties that people had to obey. This honestly reminds me of some of the card games we play now as drinking games. This was also known as the Lord of Misrule. There is now no social hierarchy, and Even if you were lower on the totem pole, you could make a penalty for a lord or for your dad, which normally wasn't allowed. As you can see, Christmas used to be very adult focused, not like it is today where it's all about the kids and their toys, but back in the day, it was all about adults getting down and dirty and just having the best time. We love that. So that was Christmas in the Middle Ages. Sounds like an absolute great time. Which of these festivals is sounding most fun to you? Let me know in the comments. Now let's fast forward to the 17th century, where we have our settlers coming over to America, the Puritans, and they weren't too keen on Christmas, actually, as you may imagine, because they weren't that fun of a crowd. Because, of course, Christmas promoted drinking and sort of debauchery and was also had its pagan roots. So the Puritans were not too fond. And actually, Christmas was canceled in Boston from 1659 to 1681. You would actually be fined 5 shillings if you were found celebrating Christmas. So those years totally sucked. However, after it being banned, it comes back into popularity in the colonial times in the 13 colonies with the parties, the feasts, hunts, huge lavish balls, decorating homes and churches with evergreen plants, as well as wassailing and caroling around town. However, since Christmas had come over from England, after the Revolutionary War, English customs fell out of favor, so Christmas was on that list. And it actually wasn't declared a federal holiday in the United States until 1870. It sort of starts coming back into popularity through actually writers and literature. In 1819, Washington Irving writes the Sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon, which is a series of stories about the celebration of Christmas in an English manor house, where a squire invites peasants into his home for a lovely holiday with ancient customs. And then in 1823, Clement Clarke Moore writes his famous poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, also known as The Night Before Christmas. And this is, where we get the famous line of stockings being hung. If you're enjoying this Christmas timeline, don't forget to subscribe below for more content coming just like this. That whole thing, why do we hang stockings? Legend has it that St. Nicholas gave 3 poor sisters gold coins by dropping them down the chimney. One fell into a pair of shoes left on the hearth, and another into a pair of socks that were hanging on the hearth to dry. So that's why we get our little goodies in our stockings. And I'll interject here to talk about St. Nicholas. He was a Greek monk born in Lycia, which is present-day Turkey, in year 280. He gave away all his inherited wealth and traveled the countryside to help the poor and sick. He became the patron saint of children and sailors. The Dutch celebrate him as Sinterklaas, who is a figure based on Saint Nick. In 1881, political cartoonist Thomas Nast used the Night Before Christmas poem to create the image we know today, the jolly old Saint Nick in his red with his satchel of toys over his shoulder. Right before that, in 1843, we have Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol, and it is super popular. The message of the importance of goodwill to all is embraced by Victorian society, and Christmas becomes this super heartwarming, family-oriented holiday. As Christmas is re-embraced, old customs are unearthed, and new ones are sprinkled in as well. So how cool is it that Christmas is, of course, rooted in these ancient traditional pagan celebrations, and of course coincides with a turning of the wheel of the year and nature and the overall interconnected web of everything, but also was sort of brought back to life by writers and by popular culture. So I just kind of love how everything is connected to bring us this most magical holiday today. And even things like eggnog has been around for hundreds of years, and all of the things that we love to eat and drink on the holidays are things that our far away ancestors were doing during this time as well. So as the wheel turns towards the light, as we celebrate the return of the light, what does Christmas really mean? What does this time of year really mean? I mean, I think that it's definitely right, that celebration of renewal, of the knowing that darkness is always defeated by light, or at least is always followed by light. And it is this eternal dance of dark and light, but knowing that even if we're in a really dark period and we don't know how we'll get through it, we know that the sun will always rise. We know that from here on out, the days are going to get longer. We know that light will always be there in our life, and darkness never lasts forever. It, of course, also must exist before a great big breakthrough. Often, that dark night of the soul, when you have an awakening, and even just dark periods in our life really do precede a period of light. And I believe that wholeheartedly. So if you are personally going through something right now and feeling the weight of the darkness, just take a moment to remind yourself that the light will return. It really always does. And, winter, and in this longest night of the year and shortest day of the year, is such a time to remember to pause and reflect and go within and go inward. It's a very internal time, and it's a time of rest and recovery. Walking in the snow is one of the most peaceful things there is. It's like the silence couldn't get any more silent. If you've ever experienced a walk in the snow by yourself in like the woods, it's just so magical. There's something so connected about it, right? So we can really just sort of have this period of reflection, and it doesn't have to be that the darkness is bad. The darkness can also represent peace and stillness and quiet and connection to yourself, as well as reflecting on our past year, as of course the new year is right around the corner, and what we desire for our new year. As the new moon is dark, the dark moon is the time to set intentions, then I think winter right now is a really excellent time to also set intentions for the new year. Of course, we're going to do that on January 1st, but it all coincides with nature. And we're so supported in putting our intentions into that void, into that dark space, into that soil. Know that the light will support them and they're going to prosper and grow. I think it's also just a great time to connect with the great mystery that is life. This interconnectedness of humans with the earth and with the sun and with the seasons, and how it all corresponds, and how we can really always tap into the energies around us to support us on our journey. Sometimes we don't need anything too external. We don't need a million books or courses or even anything I'm saying right now. Maybe it's just that moment out in nature to feel the energy of the season and to just really see what messages come through for yourself. And like our ancestors who rang those bells to free themselves of, any demons or dark evil spirits that may have been lurking around in the dark, we can do that too. It's a great time to sort of get rid of any baggage that we just want to leave in the previous year. Let it go. Really prepare ourselves for the light. Prepare ourselves for our next new amazing year. I have always been obsessed with Christmas because in the holidays, I just feel like there is literal magic in the air. There's something about this time of year that's so special. And every time it comes around, it's palpable. And I don't know if it's because everyone has their homes decorated and everyone's everywhere is decorated and it just feels so cheerful. But I think it's something more ancient than that. And I think it's also, we're lucky that we have this holiday as a scheduled timeout, because in our society of hustle and grind and go, 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 we don't do that enough for ourselves. So to have a time that really connects us back to our roots, to our family, no matter how far away we are from them, we get to all come together again and enjoy a feast and enjoy a fire in the fireplace and some amazing drinks and laughs and gift giving and revelry. It's really special. So I think not only celebrating the return of light, but celebrating each other and our loved ones, and just how lucky we are to have our communities to be with us on this journey of life that we're on. I wanted to share a card from this medieval oracle deck that I have that's associated with Yule, and I just thought it was perfect. And it's the Rebirth card. And we have a goddess who is wearing a deep pink and violet robe, and these are the colors of insight and self-knowledge. And she is with the elder tree. The priestess of rebirth contemplates life beneath a botanical wheel of elder flowers, leaves, and berries. And like I said, she's associated with the winter solstice and Yule. And beside her is a Celtic horse, the spirit animal of the elder tree. When the rebirth card appears, some kind of transformation is about to take place. You are about to enter a brand new phase in life. Rebirth promises victory over a challenge, and with it, you become wiser, stronger, and more compassionate. This card has similarities to the Death card in Tarot, for it is a card of endings and beginnings and of letting go. So I hope you enjoyed this timeline of how we got to be here with our modern day Christmas. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's your favorite winter solstice or Yule or Christmas tradition? And I am wishing you the most joyous, blessed holiday season. So until next time, much love.